And again, thank you so much, everyone, for investing some time with us this morning to take a look at some functionality that we actually released back in August. And this is actually an encore presentation of the initial webinar that we did right after this functionality was released back in August. It was a very well attended webinar. It has been functionality that's been very popular amongst our clients, so we decided to do an encore presentation of it for December here for everybody. And just wanted to let you know, too, for any of our clients that are with us this morning that may still be accessing Autosoft from an on-prem server, if you didn't do the update back when this functionality was originally released, you'll need to manually perform the most recent update in order to benefit from what we're going to cover today. We would also strongly encourage any dealer that's still currently on an on-prem server to upgrade to our hosted solution for the increased data security that it offers. Also, upgrading to hosted will enable you to receive any new updates automatically whenever they're released, and it eliminates the need to do those manual updates. And we'll provide some additional information at the end of the webinar for anyone interested in upgrading to the hosted server from their on-prem server. So the new enhancements in accounting that we released in August, it's going to expand that existing prior month's functionality that lives within the month-end section of accounting. So it's going to allow users to delve further into the detailed accounting history beyond the rolling 12 months that was previously available from the screens. So for a majority of our clients, you're going to be able to access data going back to 2014. So without you having to go in and access those prior month-end records within the PDF files, you're now going to actually be able to drill down into the detail. So just so that everybody's aware, not everyone may have access to information going all the way back to 2014. Obviously, if you became an Autosoft client after the fact, you may only have information going back to when you started. Also, if your dealership went through an ownership change, or if your dealership was unfortunately impacted by a virus on an on-prem server, the data may not be going all the way back to 2014 for you. So you may see only so much information within your system if your store went through any of those situations. So in order to access this information, what you're going to want to do is when you go to month end, and when you go to your prior month records here, this is where you've been able to drill down into the detail of those prior 12 months. But now when you scroll all the way to the bottom, you're going to see this prior years option. So when you go into prior years, this is going to show all of those previous months beyond that rolling 12 months that you've been able to access historically. So for example, here, if I wanted to go into February of 2019, I could select the month that I want to drill down into, and it's going to show the date that the month was closed. And then this is where I can start accessing that detailed accounting information. So if I start at the top here with my vehicle inventory, if I wanted to go in and I wanted to look at my fast trial, this is where I could see all of my different inventory accounts as far as what the balances were at that point in time. I can also go into my schedules. I can either print them or I can view them on the screen. So this is where I'd be able to pull up one of my inventory schedules. I'd be able to see all of the vehicles that were on that schedule at that point in time. And then, of course, I can drill down into inventory detail as well. So if I go to view vehicle detail here, I can input the stock number if I know it, but this is where if I go to the inventory list, I'll be able to access all of my dealership inventory accounts. So whether it's new car or used car, I can pull up a specific inventory account and it's going to show me all of the units that were in that inventory account at that point in time. And from here, I can drill down into an inventory record and view all the detail associated with it. So I can see at this point in time, this vehicle was 12 days old in my inventory. It shows all the details as far as any charges that were posted to that unit's cost of sale. And I can even drill down into things like repair orders as well and view all that detailed information right from here. Brittany, anything else you'd like to add pertaining to the inventory section before we move on to the detail of payables and receivables?
No, Mike, you covered it very well.
All righty. So moving right along, payables and receivables. Just like accessing payables and receivables from the main screen of Autosoft, you're going to see everything ordered here in the same fashion. So of course you can print your receivable schedule or your payable schedule as it appeared at that time. You can also view it here on the screen as well. So now I'd be able to see my entire AR schedule or my entire AP vendor schedule right here on the screen. And of course, I can drill down into the detail right here as well. So I can see in this case, all of the invoices that were posted to this customer's AR account during the month of February 2019. Fast statement would enable me to generate an AR statement or an AP vendor statement for that month as well. And then this is where I'd be able to access my customer database or my vendor database during that month. And then, of course, the general ledger. There's a ton of information that you can drill down into here from within this section of the month-end records. So up at the top is where you can access all of the detail as far as your trial balance and your GL detail for that month. This is where you can come in, you can print all of the detail associated with the single GL account, or you can come in and you can print a group of accounts. So if you wanted to print the information associated with your assets, your liabilities, your expense accounts, you can select right here from the drop down the group of accounts that you want to print the information for. And then just like within the general ledger in Autosoft today, you have the find functionality available. So this is going to allow you to search the month of your choice, in this case, February of 2019, for a specific dollar amount or document number posted to the general ledger during that time. And again, this is where you can come in, you can print all of the detail, you can print all of the detail associated with a particular journal or a particular GL account. Expenses only, which is great because it's only going to print the detail associated with your expense accounts. And then moving right along, when you want to go into the general ledger itself, you can go right here to view account data. So just like when you're in the general ledger in Autosoft, if you know the account number, you can enter it right here at the top. You can also come down here to the list. And just like in the general ledger, you have all of your accounts right here on one page. You can then segment based on account type. So down here at the drop with the drop down, you can access all of your different account types. So if you wanted to pull up your expense accounts, it's going to show you all of your individual expense accounts. You can drill down into an account and it's going to land you here on the summary screen, which shows you some basic information about the account as far as what department it's affiliated with, whether or not it's on a schedule. You're also going to be able to see where you were at this point in time in February of 2019, along with where you were the previous month. And then when you go into the detail here, this is where you're able to see all of the detail that was posted to that GL account at that point in time. So now you can drill down all the way to the document level here. You can see both sides of each transaction, just like you can within the general ledger today. And then, of course, your fast trial. It's going to give you a real-time trial balance as to where you were at this point in time in February of 2019. So it breaks everything down, just like running the fast trial within the general ledger and Autosoft today. Brittany, anything you'd like to add regarding what we've discussed in the general ledger section here?
The only thing that I wanted to point out is, when you look at the general ledger information, when you're in the month-end history, one thing that you will not see is those options for the post ahead. So that could be something that you see that looks a little different compared to the screen when you're out at the main accounting menu. But when you're in that month-end history, drilling down on that specific month, you're not going to see any of those options for any of those post aheads. That applies to any of the options for vehicle inventory, receivables, payables, or the GO. Same thing with the schedules.
Excellent. Good to know. Thanks, Brittany.
You're welcome.
And then, of course, when you go into your schedules, you'll be able to access everything as far as any scheduled accounts you have, whether they be set up as open item or balance forward schedules. So when you go in, this is where you can print all of your scheduled accounts. You can print a specific account, or just like with payables and receivables, you have the option to view those schedules right here on the screen. And you can either input the account number up here at the top, or you can access right here via the list. So if I wanted to come in and I wanted to look at my holdback schedule here, this is where I could see everything that was posted to that scheduled account for the month. And I can drill down into everything right from here as well. So again, a lot of enhanced drill down functionality that you have pertaining to your schedules. You can print your short list from here as well, as far as how everything appeared during that month. And then if you go back out and you want to look at individual documents, this is where you can come in. If you know the document number, you can enter it right here, or you can go to the document list, and we have everything ordered by document number and of course by journal. So rather than entering a document number manually, this is where you'd be able to find what you're looking for. And you can see we're going in order here. So now we're in our 30s journals. So we're looking at repair orders. So if I drill down, it's just going to show all of the accounting detail associated with that particular document. And then same thing goes for my journals. So whenever I want to go back into a specific journal, this is where I can see a list of everything that I have set up journal-wise. I can go into any of my journals right from here, and I can see all of the activity posted to that journal. So it's going to show everything that was posted during that month for that particular journal. And then, of course, I'm right back to where I started. So if I wanted to go and view another month, I could come into select month. I could view anything that I have over the last rolling 12 months, or I could go right back here to prior years, and I could delve further into that month-end history. So at this point, that concludes the content that we wanted to cover for you today. Brittany, is there anything else that you wanted to add before we officially wrap up the content portion of the presentation?
The only other thing that I wanted to add is, if you're seeing that when you access this feature inside the system that you don't have access back to, the starting point of when you joined Autosoft, so maybe, or up to 2014, if you still have access to your, PDF records from the month-end archive, those are going to be your best bet to access that information, since it's not going to be in this feature itself. Excellent. So those still hold a lot of weight for you.
Absolutely. They never go anywhere.
Right.
Michael, I'd like to ask a question of just those who are on this webinar today, if they don't mind sharing. How do you see this feature benefiting your dealership? Or I guess more importantly, how would you see it benefiting your role at the dealership? Do you find it would be helpful? Can you see it being helpful? Have you already used it? It did get released, as Michael said, back in August. So if you've made that update, especially if you're on a hosted server, that update would have been pushed already. But if you'd like to, you can chat those in the comments. I'd like to know how it's been received. Oh, it looks like we have Kathy. Let me unmute your line, Kathy. Yeah. All right, Kathy, it looks like you just need to unmute your portion of it. I've allowed your microphone to work if you have your question still. The unmute button should be in the lower, well, it depends on what system you're on, but it's either going to be in the lower corner or the upper right corner.
Kathy said she doesn't have a mic.
And that's okay.
You can just type your question. Can you show how to get those PDFs, Brittany?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want me to, you got it, Mike?
So we'll just go right here. So anything from a month-end record standpoint, you'll be able to access right from the electronic month-end records section. So if we start back from the main screen of Autosoft, when you go into month end and you go to your electronic month end records, this is where you're going to have all of that archived information. So depending upon what month you want to view, you can select that month, and then it opens everything up in PDF for you here. So if you needed to save it or email it, being that it's PDF, you can also search it. So if you right click and go to find, if you're trying to track down a specific dollar amount or document number, it's very easy to look up whatever it is that you need to find.
Kathy, give us a thumbs up if that answered your question. Any other questions from those on the webinar today? Either on how to access this, or if you want Michael and Brittany to review a certain aspect of the feature again. Kathy gives the thumbs up. We're good there. So thank you, Brittany, for going over that, and Michael for showing it.
Of course.
Question came in, will this webinar be available later? Yes, it will be. So following this webinar, probably midday today, you'll receive an email with a link to view it again. They will also be available on Autosoft University if you've signed up to be a part of that. And in fact, Michael, I'm going to take your screen if that's okay and just share mine. If you don't currently have access to Autosoft University, your best bet is getting a hold of this lady here. Debbie Palmer is going to be your best friend regarding that. She will get you in touch with your client success manager, and they will sign you up for that. There's multiple ways to look up training like this in Autosoft University, how-tos, best practices, and that'll really help you out. So if you currently don't have access, you can contact her using her information here on the screen. Her phone number and email are right there. And while this screen's up as well, we have a QR code. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to a short survey. We want to know what you'd like to hear about. We want to know what you liked about this webinar so that we can continue to improve these. And we have a whole upcoming year where we're going to have different topics for various departments in the dealership. And we want to know what it is you may want to learn more about so that we can cater those webinars to those questions and your likings. So please scan that, take that short survey, and let us know how we can better help you become better trained in the Autosoft DMS. Continue to ask those questions if you have them.
Zach, I have something to share while we're waiting for questions to come in.
Please do.
This will be a feature enhancement that's going to come out in 2025. So just like what we've done for the general ledger history, we are doing the same thing for payroll. So if any of you use our payroll, currently the way that works is you can only access one previous year. So they're looking into, it's actually in development, how we'll do that, how you'll be able to access historical payroll information. So that's something to look forward to.
Yep, and we'll include that portion as part of a webinar as well once it gets released.
That was actually a question that came up on the previous webinar.
And that's why I wanted to share, just so in case anybody was thinking that, they can now know that it is in development and it's something that we are working on. And that, came from all of our customers using the system.
Brittany, this may be a question you may be most suited to answer. Lisa commented that she doesn't see all her months in the month-end records in the electronic records file. Is that normal? Is there something that they should be doing to make sure that all this information is saved?
Yes. So if you don't see them, it could be that somebody else may have run them. And that it could be so it could be that somebody else is running them, so they might not show on your workstation. Or it could be just that during the month end process, that step is being skipped. So when you're out at the main menu of Autosoft and you've gone through and you've closed out your month, so you've gone into month end, you've closed your receivables, you've closed your payables, and you've closed your general ledgers. There is a red bar that will display telling you that the stack month end or your archive records need to be ran. And once that's done, that will go away, and then that shows you that information should then be in the system. So that's always a trigger. If you see that red bar out at your main Autosoft screen, then that month end record step isn't being done, or that stack month end step is not being done. So Kathy put in the chat, would love to hear from someone actually using CC portion and time clock in ASI. When you say CC, are you referring to credit card?
Yes.
Okay. So the credit card portion from cashier?
Yes.
Would you find that beneficial to see that as a webinar, like how the time clock feature works inside of Autosoft, and then how is it processing credit card information from just like making the entry itself or using a third party for that information? Sorry, that's a lot of questions back.
And especially where we don't have a microphone enabled on her system. So if you can type that out, Kathy, that would be great. But I'm going to say this, when you have a question, chances are other people have that same question and it's just not being asked. So don't hold back because you don't want to bring that up or chat that so everybody can see it. It'll benefit multiple people by asking that question so that we can answer it for everybody.
And these are also great ideas for future webinar content as well.
For sure, for sure. And that's why I encourage scanning that QR code and letting us know what you'd like to be better trained on so that we can cater those webinars to that training. But again, continue to keep those coming. We plan a half hour for these webinars so that we can have these type of question and answer periods. Brittany, did you see that comment come in? We can read through that.
Yeah. So it does sound like it would be beneficial to have a webinar going through payroll, time clock, and direct deposit, since there's bank information including in there. And then for the credit card one, also does a credit card section in ASI allow credit card to be saved in the customer information? That I would have to double check. There have been some advancements depending on the integration that's used for the credit card processing. That answer may have to get back to you on, just so I can double check how that works.
I've noted
each
Kathy's
provider might
there,
be
so
different.
We'll make sure to get back in touch with her. Thomas wrote, I use the time clock for payroll and also do direct deposit through Autosoft. It works great. Glad to hear that, Thomas. Thank you for mentioning that. Any other questions? Let me check the Q&A here. Looks like we don't have any further ones in there. Oh, we do actually. Will there be a transcript or access to PowerPoint printouts for those of us who prefer printed instructions to refer back or make notes? There won't be any PowerPoint printouts for this. We will have the video and there will be a transcript as well. When you get that email later today, you'll be able to access the video and a separate transcript of this as well. So if that works for you, being able to, you could print out that transcript, but unfortunately we did a live presentation and did not resort to PowerPoint slides, there wouldn't be a PowerPoint created. So both Gail and Hutch, looks like the info's been really helpful. We appreciate you being here and letting us know how you plan to use this. So Gail, thank you for being a longtime customer since 2006. So that's wonderful. We love to hear feedback like that. And Hutch, looking for certainly see this saving time. Yes, that's one of the main reasons that this feature came out, is to save time. Coming in handy, especially during an audit. Yes. Any others before we wrap up? Looks like Hutch, you also use the time clock for payroll. Works smoothly. That's wonderful. Brittany, that last question may have been geared more towards what you mentioned about the payroll feature.
If it's about the payroll feature, it will come in 2025. We don't have a specific time frame as far as when it'll be released, but the target is in Q1. And then for the the general ledger history, that is live today. So depending on if you're on a hosted environment, you should be able to go into month end and prior month records, and you'll see the option for prior periods. If you're on an on-prem server and you don't see that option when you're in month end prior month records, then you would need to run the web software update. If you're not sure how to do that, we could walk you through that, or it could refer you to our hardware team and they can also help you go through that phase.
And again, as mentioned earlier, the advantage to having a hosted server versus an on-premise server would be that these updates get automatically pushed out to your dealership. So when that payroll feature does come out, or for instance, when this general ledger feature came out, they were automatically put onto your DMS in your dealership because of the hosted environment. So yet another benefit of why people have been switching over to the hosted server. Okay. Let's see. Cynthia, we're glad you liked it, and thanks for joining. We're going to continue these throughout 2025, so all helpful content. And as we wrap up here, just a reminder, you will get an email later in the day that will have a link to view this webinar again. You can share that email with those in your dealership who you feel would also be of benefit to seeing how this general ledger history feature works and how it can best benefit you in your role. Before we do close, I just want to remind you to keep an eye on your email for that link to view this again. If you don't see it, please check your spam box just in case. This webinar, along with all other future webinars, They'll be available on Autosoft University. So it's a valuable tool to learn and relearn all of those features and processes of the Autosoft DMS. If you don't have access to that right now, reach out to Debbie Palmer. She would be happy to connect you with your client success manager and enroll you in Autosoft University. It's a free service. It comes with your Autosoft DMS. So please take advantage of that. And whether you've been using Autosoft for 20 years or just 2 days, there are courses to help you be more proficient within the DMS. Let me check one more time for questions. I don't think there was any others that came in.
There was Zach. Kathy
Was
had
there?
asked, will there be a year-end training?
Oh, okay. Well, the year-end training, we actually did that webinar last month. So if you got our Autosoft monthly newsletter in November, there was actually a link to re-watch that, but that is also it should be posted in Autosoft University already, and your client success manager can hook you up with that link to view that video again, so you can go back and relearn and rewatch the year-end process webinar. It was a little lengthier than these ones. It was about an hour long, but very helpful content in there.
And just to add to that, for anybody that is new to Autosoft, Autosoft does provide a year-end closing manual that walks you step by step through everything that you need to do, from closing out payroll, closing out your general ledger, and starting to process your 1099s. So those will be two great resources to utilize.
Brittany, are there suggested courses for new bookkeepers?
I would say yes, there is. I would definitely take the office manager course or the controller course, just because that's going to highlight throughout everything in the system that you need, from, you know, processing journal transactions to closing out the month, how to access your schedules, how to generate a financial statement, the bank reconciliation. That's going to encompass everything that you need if you're going to be the main person that's overseeing everything. That will give you that content. And no, the 24 manual is not out yet. But we could, I will follow up with the team that handles that to see when that will be released. It likely will be closer to the end of the year, and that is usually about the time frame that we push that out, just based off of all the changes that come from the IRS that are in there for payroll.
A great question. Thanks for bringing that up. As a reminder, if you do have any questions that you think of, lingering ones, after we've closed the webinar, you can still reach out to us. You have Debbie's information here. You can actually reply to any of those email notifications you received regarding this webinar, and we'll review those and get back to you. So we value your engagement. We'd be delighted to continue that conversation at a later time. Hutch, thank you for that comment. Year-end closing manual, total lifesaver for high anxiety people. Yes, yes. So when that comes out, make sure to get that.
Yeah, it is step by step. It literally is. It's an accounting Bible, I would say.
How do they get that, Brittany? You want to answer
So
that?
so at the main screen of your Autosoft, where the newsfeed section is, anytime there are updates, so when you think about payroll, anytime there are any of the year-end updates, the year-end manual will display there for quick access. And then also, whenever the tax table updates are available, it'll also display there. And same thing with the financial statement updates. That information all lives in the news feed so that you can see it, and then you can click those links and it'll take you to what you need to access.